So I am in chapter 16. I'm going to do the homework. I believe the homework is all the questions from the chapter. So for the first one, from the following formula for 40 sertraline capsules, calculate the quantity of each ingredient needed to prepare 250 capsules. So when would you encounter this? You counter this in like a compounding specialty lab. So you have the, you need to prepare 250 capsules. You have 40. So this is 100% essentially. And so this is more than 100%. But that's not what I want. And so we're going to find the percentage of the percent that we need out of this. Essentially, this is a ratio. So we find out that we need 625% of each of these ingredients in order to make that much. So 6.25. So we just do 300 milligrams times 6.25 and 6 grams times 6.25 and then 4 grams times 6.25. I did this differently earlier, so I'm going to see if this works. So if I get the same answer, then it does. Yep. Okay, so we find 1875 milligrams, which is the same as 1.875 grams. And then 6 times 6.25, 37.5 grams. And then 4 times 6.25 is 25. Now, the other way I did this earlier was I took, for the 300 milligrams, I know that that makes 40 caps. And then that is equal to 250 caps over X. And then you multiply 300 times 250 and divide by 40, which is essentially the same kind of actions, but it's just set up differently in my notebook. Okay, so number 2. Oh yeah, and yep. Okay. From the following formula for progesterone nasal spray, calculate the quantity of each ingredient needed to prepare 24 15 milliliter containers of the spray. So first off, we need to find out our total amount that we are making, and that is 24 15 milliliter amounts. Oh, 24, sorry, I misread that. All right. So this is to add means to make to 1 milliliter. So everything is multiplied by 360 because your ratio when you find it, it's 360 milliliters divided by 1 milliliter, which is 360. So your ratio is 360%, or not 360%. Yeah. Yeah, it's way more than that. I just did 9, oh, no, yeah, about 9 hours in my IPI. I am a bit tired, so, but I still have some time and I got this done, and you guys can have all day tomorrow to look at it. So, or, you know, the whole kit and caboodle. So it's better that I get this done now and you guys get to look over it and have more time. And then I have more time to talk to people who have questions. So if you have questions, technically you're supposed to go to Sadig. All right, and that is essentially 22.32 grams. And this is 7.2 grams. And this is 360 milliliters. Yep. Okay. For the following formula, calculate the quantities required to bake 5 pounds of hydrophilic ointment. So, trying to remember, sodium lauryl sulfate, I believe that's a preservative, maybe? Alcohol is, we use that to thin out. Petrolatum is usually your base. The parabens are usually actually like your main like waxes, if I remember correctly, in a ointment. But I learned that years ago. So we want to first figure out our ratio. So 1 kilogram divided by 2.2 pounds will find you how many kilograms per pound, which is 0.454 kilograms per pound. Then you multiply that by 5 pounds. So 454 times 5. Yeah. So 270 grams, although it's 2.27 kilograms. All right, and then I want to figure out how much of each of these. So this is to make 1,000 gram ointment. So we would normally take 2,270 divided by 1,000 to find, but we already have that, which is 2.27. That is our ratio for this one. So 25 grams times 2.27. 5 grams times 2.27, and then 10. We can just figure that out off the top of our head. That one's going to be 22.7 grams. We don't need, because we know that's what that's going to go to, because it's almost a 1-to-1. And then 120 times 2.27. So then 250 we only have to do once, because we have the same in there twice. So makes it a little bit easier. And then we know that this whole entire thing is going to go to 2070 grams, which is a lot, but if you are, say, a doctor who likes a particular ointment to be made, then you have a whole bunch of ointment made at the same time by a compounding pharmacy with an agreement that you send all your patients to that pharmacy. Or, well, it's not really an agreement because that's kind of illegal, but it's like, oh, I already did that. But it's go to this pharmacy, they already have it made, so it's cheaper there. Whereas if you go to another store where they don't make it in industrial batches, it will be more expensive. So the whole entire reason they do that is so that it is cheaper for the patient. So the patient is not getting scalped, which is the whole entire reason you do this is so that a whole bunch of patients get served very quickly and that they also get it for the cheapest amount. Because if you're making an industrial quantity of some specialty lotion, then everybody benefits. So, where did I put? Yes. Yes. Okay. Yep. All right, double checking. Sorry. All right, the formula for the following ophthalmic ointment is how much would such an agreement need to create 2,000 such tubes? So you would have to, yeah, okay. So you have to first, I didn't write any notes for this one. Okay, well, so you first have to figure out your weight. So your 3.5 grams is your 100%, and then your other ones are 10%. Or you can just multiply everything by 10%. So take, well, there's another way that you can do it. So you can do it, one way is to go 3.5 grams times 2,000 times 0.1. And that should find it. Yep. Here's the difficult one. I have 5 zeros. So there's limited runs of makeup that my sister was telling me, and so they actually, this would look like prednisolone acetate. Yeah, I'm not sure what this one would be for. I'd have to know a little bit more, but you have a similar recipe when you're making when you're making lipsticks. Sorry. So, all right, and then we take 3.5 times 2,000 times 0.002. That's 14. And then this last one is 3.5 times 2,000 times 0.000008. Let me find what that is. 0.056 grams, which is the same as 56 milligrams. Okay, so we found 700, 14, 56, 70. Oh, yeah, and we have to find the total. So the way that you find the total is that you take all these and add them together. So you take 700 plus 14 plus your 0.056 plus 70. You find that that is 784. Oh, 784.056. And then you have to find the total of your whole entire thing, which is 3.5 times 2,000, which I believe is 7,000. But let me plug and chug because I've had a long day and I don't know. Yep. And so you want to take out the 784 because you're making it to that volume. So you don't need, you have all the volume being taken up by the active ingredients. The rest of that is just kind of filler, I guess is the best way to think about it. But it's important too. 26215.944. So okay. So in our history lesson today, actually one of the reasons that we had all of our ingredients come over from overseas was actually it was illegal at one point in time, if I remember correctly, because England wanted to support their chemical factories on their side of the pond, so they made it illegal to make some of the chemicals, and there were more reputable industries over in France at the time, in Germany, for all those chemicals. So would you risk it and buy cheaper chemicals in America, or make sure that your, stuff works? All right, calculate the quantity of each ingredient to prepare 15 milliliters. Okay, so this one's a reduction. So you take 15 and you divide it by 100, and you find 0.5, because you're going from 100 milliliters to 1.5. So instead, where earlier I showed this ratio where it was 240 over 40 because we were going up, this one we're going down, and so we put the one that we're going to on the bottom, and so our percentage is 15%. So you just take all this, 500 milligrams times 0.15, 100 milligrams times 0.15, and 2.5 milliliters times 0.15, and then 100 milliliters times 0.15. So 500 times 0.15, 75, and then that's 15. And then that should be the same-ish. And I'll get to that in a second. And then 2.5 times 0.15. 0.3 milliliters, milligrams. Wait, did I do that incorrectly? Did I type that in incorrectly? Yes, I did type that in correctly. It's 2.5. Sorry. There's probably people watching this going, ah, you didn't do it correctly. Yes, okay. Yeah, because I was looking at, this is 5 milliliters, and then this is 15 milliliters, but if it's QS, which I believe that this is implied QS, normally I would ask the doctor if they wanted it made to that quantity. Then you have to take out any of your active ingredient liquids. So it would be 15 minus 0.375. 14.625. The other thing that kind of got me about our history lesson today was that, okay, so it's not QS, but if you were making this QS, that would be how you do it, but you don't need to know that. So, okay. According to the literature, biotechnology in Neulasta contains the following in 0.6 pre-filled syringes. How much of the first 3 ingredients would be needed to manufacture 100,000 such syringes? Okay, so we're going from 1 to 100,000. So I'm just, oh wait, we don't need that. Okay, so times 100,000, and we can all do this in our heads because we're big kids, right? Actually, on an exam, I will actually take out the calculator and do this on my thing, to be honest. Oh, you know what? So this goes to 60 grams. And there's another way we can do this is that we, no, wait, did I do this wrong? Oh, it's 100,000. That's why. Okay. Whoops. All right. Ignore me. Okay. This is what I was going to bring up. So we're going to 100,000, which is like that, but that 1,000 part, see, it's 100,000. So we can take out and divide this by 1,000 because they're going to milligrams, because then when you go to grams, then this is 600 grams. And so if you just multiply it by 100 instead of 1,000, then you save a step because now you're not converting, you're going directly. So then you go 3,000 grams, which is kilograms, 3 kilograms. And it's so much easier to do on your own. And see, this goes 1, 2, or 1, 2, yep. So then this becomes 2 grams. There you go. So that is another way to do it so that you don't have to convert stuff. from the following formula, calculate the quantity of each ingredient required to make 1,500 grams of the powder. So this one is possibly, it's not that hard. It's just you have to do a couple of steps. So you want to add all these together, and you get 5 plus this will be 5, that's 10, and then that's 13. So you get 13 parts. And you take your total, and you divide it by your 13 parts. And you get 115.38. That is one part. So you do that times 5, 576, and then you have one part, which is 115.38. What's that? 92.92. And then multiply by 4, 461.53. And then multiply by the 3. So 346.15. And there you go. There's all your parts. You normally go 115.38 times 5, and then 115.38 times 4, 115.38 times 3. And there you go. So okay, so we rounded it up a little bit, but it's fine. The following is a formula for 100 triple estrogen capsules. Calculate the quantities for the first 3 ingredients in grams and the last 2 ingredients in kilograms required to prepare 5,000 such capsules. So, interesting point in history as well that we didn't talk about in class is that any contraceptives used to be handmade because they were used for controlling, I think it was like considered controlling like libido or something like that. But it was to make contraceptives, essentially. Doctors kind of knew what they were doing. So we are preparing 5,000 such capsules. And this is 100. Okay. So you take 100. Oh, no. Where do we go? Okay. So we are creating 5,000. And we divide it by 100. And we should get 50. So then you take, that is your ratio. There is another way that you can do this, which is you can take each ingredient, divide it by 100, and then multiply it by 5,000, because you're figuring out how much you have in each capsule, and then you're finding out for 5,000. But the 50 will work too. So yeah, they used to make this by hand almost all the time because it was technically illegal, and so you would go to kind of a little bit of a doctor that was willing to do it on the sly, and usually they only did it for married women, so it was not for people who were not married. And the reason for that was that it was considered like very sinful, I guess, to necessarily do that. I mean, but there is something to be said about traditional values, but I think it was more that they didn't want single women encouraged to sleep around. I think that was also the other thing, and I should shush. But the reason I know this is because I also watch Mad Men, and if you watch Mad Men, you clearly can see that. So I'm not like making this up off the top of my head. So that is 10 grams. Why am I having the hardest time of my life right now? Doing stuff. And then we don't need to do that twice because we just figured it out. It's the same amount. And then this would be 1,000 grams because that's 10% of that, which is 1 kilogram. But yeah, there was very much, and then there was also husbands would also ask their doctors to give it to their wives, and they would not tell their wives what it was for. There was this big weird thing about it, and there's a whole entire French literature about it, which is very interesting because the French very much was into this. Just culturally, they're into that. So it's interesting that France did, but also there's some cool historical texts from Germany about this stuff too, because that was that used to be the way of the world. Was those two were the big ones. Sorry, the formula for ciprofloxacin otic drop is given in the literature as follows: 1 gram propylene glycol and then glycerin made to 100 milliliters. So, how many grams of the ciprofloxacin would be required to prepare 215 milliliter bottles? So, 200 bottles, and they're each 15 milliliters. Milligrams, milliliters. And that's 3,000 milliliters. Our recipe is called for on 100. So that is 30. Yeah. And then we need 1 gram. So 1 gram times 30 is 30. The formula for a sports rub cream is given in the literature as follows: methyl salicylate, 15 milliliters, menthol, 10 grams, eucalyptus oil, 1 gram, and hydrophilic ointment made to add to 100 grams. If the specific gravity of methyl salicylate is 1.818, how many grams of each ingredient would be needed to prepare a dozen 30-gram tubes of ointment? So, all right, we have a dozen, and we have 30 grams, and that is 360 grams that we're total making. Our recipe is 100, so we need to find a ratio, which is 3.6. So then we take everything and we do 15 milliliters times 3.6 And then we do 10 grams times 3.6, 1 gram times 3.6, which these are pretty obvious what they're going to be. And then, so this is the tricky part. So we're not done with the 100 grams of that. So we have to figure out how much room that 54, this is going to take up, the methyl salicylate, because we don't have it in grams and everything else is in grams. So we have to take 15 times 3.6, which is 54 milliliters. Yeah, remember your units. And then your specific gravity is for every 1 milliliter volume, it weighs 1.18 grams. So you have to multiply this by 1.18, if that will go into the calculator. So it's 63.72 grams. So now we know the grams. Now, why is this important? We have to add all of our ingredients. This is make to 100 grams. So you add 63.72 and 3.6 and 36. And I can go to the calculator because I'm tired. So plus 3.6 plus 36. You should find 103.32 grams. And then you take your 360, because this is your total end quantity, not the amount of hydrophilic ointment. So you take 360 grams minus 103.32. Oh, yeah, that worked out. Okay, yes. So 256.68 grams, because I was lazy. So that is the amount of hydrophilic ointment. So you're going to add this much grams of the methyl salicylate, or that many milliliters. Then you're going to add 36 of the menthol, 3.6 of the eucalyptus oil, and then 256.68 of the hydrophilic ointment. So, all right, and we're getting towards the end. Okay. For the following formula for gastric lavage prior to colonoscopy. So gastric lavage, if you don't know what that is, they stick a tube down your throat and they clean out your inside from the top down. They pump it full of stuff and then they pull it all out. It's not exactly the most pleasant process. I haven't had to do one necessarily, but I have had to watch one, not on a human. I had to watch it on a rat. So, because I was not good at the rats and I was very allergic to rats, I was not meant to be around rats. So, the quantity that we are making this recipe to is for 4 liters, and they want to know the sodium bicarbonate needed to prepare 100 liters. So we don't need to know the rest of this stuff. This stuff we don't need to know. It's gone. It's forever. It's gone. Boosh. So you just need to know the sodium bicarbonate. So 1.68 and 100 liters, I believe, over 4, because we want to get that. And then So 1.68 times 100 divided by 4 is 42. Remember to label stuff, because this can kill you. Because if you mislabel stuff, you could seriously damage a patient. So there we go. See, we've got the same answer. The following is a formula for the preparation of a suppository for the treatment of migraine headaches. Calculate the quantities of each ingredient needed to prepare 250 suppositories. So, okay. So this is another old French recipe, actually, to be honest. I mean, it's a little bit, phenobarbital's been around, but it's based off another French recipe that I recognize off the bat. So in France, they have a weird thing where they like to do suppositories. I have no idea, but their medicine for some reason likes suppositories. So if you ever decide to practice in France, which is somewhat socialized medicine anyway, so nobody likes it anyway, you have to compound a lot of these. And just knowing family that lives in Europe, this is this is something that if you live in a French-speaking community, you will see lots of these recipes. Anyway, so because we're making 250 of these suppositories, I'll need to put that one into the calculator and this one into the calculator. And then times. Now this last one is interesting because so 0.25 times 250, 62.5, and that's milligrams. And this is 60 times 250, 1500, and that is 15 grams. Now, this is the interesting part. Now we have to add all this stuff together. So take half a gram plus 25 plus 15 plus 0.0625. So 40.5625. Yep. And then you're going to take it out of 500. So you find 459.4375. And that is for your, that's for this. So this is your fat base added. So you have to account for all the volume of this stuff. I believe that is the last question. Okay. But yes, I particularly loved medicinal history. I'm kind of sad we did not learn anything in class today about Hygienia or Galen. Galen is the founding father of medicine, and he died in 210 AD, which is after death of Christ or whatever you want. Yeah. So Yeah. So he is really the founder of medicine, and so we didn't learn about that. We didn't learn about, um, I believe it's Hephaestus is the father of medicine, and his daughter is Hygienia, which is where we get our symbol in pharmacy. So we have always been the daughter of medicine, and it's always seen as medicine as a woman's trade, which has kind of been interesting because we were in the healing trade, but because of the nursing aspects of pharmacy. Um, but yes, so that is it. I hope you learned some history along the way, but it irritated me today that we didn't learn more about the Greeks. And I will get to chapter 9 soon. And that is it.